Hey, what's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I'm going to be talking about another new film to come out of Gravitas Ventures, set to hit physical and digital media on August 10th. It's Eye Without a Face. Eye Without a Face is essentially about Henry, a young man who is lonely, heavily agoraphobic, and obviously troubled as he spends the majority of his time hacking into the computer webcams of multiple young women, and he sees himself to be their friend and even guardian angel. But when he believes that he witnesses one of the women commit murder on camera, he may have to face those fears to do something about the killer. One of the ways that this film is marketed as is a modern take on Hitchcock's Rear Window. And I'm a sucker for whenever films do this, and there's been more modern takes on that story than there's been classic at this point, but I digress. It's still a fantastic way to make a thriller feel thrilling, especially if you do it right. This concept, specifically, may be strikingly familiar to you if you saw Amy Adams recently on Netflix with her film, The Woman in the Window. That was also a modern take on Rear Window, and also about a troubled agoraphobic person. The only difference here is that the window in question is digital. Now, personally, I like that because an actual window is the one thing that keeps being used over and over again, but a digital window through a webcam hack, that's relatively fresh and one of my favorite aspects of this film altogether. Another great thing going on in this film is the utilization of film techniques that they took advantages of for an obviously low budget. One of the biggest things that they focused on here was how the camera was set up in each of these shots, and framing a scene goes a long way in helping a thriller really grasp that feeling that what's going on is crazy. In addition to that, you have some fairly decent performances here from our lead, Dakota Shapiro, because he had a challenging role. He had to play innocent, creepy, nice, desperate, weird, lonely, and in a whole range of other behavioral emotions, and he did them all pretty well. He was easily the standout in the film as a whole. His roommate, Eric, I wasn't the biggest fan of him. He was just kind of this over-the-top, boastful personality that I think clashed with Henry's own. Part of that was the point, but that clashing also kind of clashed with the tone of the film, and I wasn't sure what to feel in those moments, but his character was vital. If you've ever seen a Rear Window film, there's always that one guy or the one girl helper that can actually leave the house because for whatever reason our main character can't. That always helps build the tension when they leave the house. So he was needed. I just didn't really care about the performance all that much. What about some negatives? Well, my main gripe here would just be that I found a majority of it to be a bit predictable, and not because I know how Rear Window films typically go, but because some of the writing here carried out some obvious horror tropes, which means that you can probably call it from the beginning. Another problem the film has is that Henry isn't really that likable of a character. I mean, sure, he's somewhat relatable because we all know loneliness, but he took it that extra step to the point where he's not really that relatable. Also, because I understand tech, I also know all the issues that he runs into that don't make logical sense if he was actually hacking into people's webcams. One of the girls that he hacks into is a webcam model, and so she uses her own webcam when she works. Now, if you've ever tried to use a webcam for two different applications at home, you know that one of the applications will say, "Oh no, your camera's in use. Turn it off, and then we can do business." So there's no way that he should be able to watch her while she uses her own webcam, because her webcam software would be like, no, your webcam would be in use. But, I digress. Again. Overall, this is the kind of movie that horror fans may really enjoy, or those of you that prefer to watch a more independent film versus those big-budgeted Hollywood blockbusters. It's definitely a concept film above all else, and some moments in this film are definitely worth the experience. Let's go ahead and break down the final score. From an unbiased, technical perspective, it's not bad. Most of the technical marvels here are very, very subtle, but they're still impressive nonetheless, sort of like with the cinematography. It's not as impressive as big Hollywood movies are, but the focus on it was still very good, and the concept of using a webcam as a window to spy on, it's all pretty good, but everything else is pretty much business as usual. This score is 68%. My bias score, or just how I felt about it overall, isn't too far off, but it is a little bit higher because I did enjoy it for what it's worth. This score is 74%, and when we average together these two scores, we come to the final rating of 71%. 71 out of 100 possible stars, or a B- letter grade. Guys, have you seen Eye Without a Face? If you have, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. Or if you haven't, are you looking forward to watching it? As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out!
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie.